I'm Indian. I come from the South Asian community, but I'm first generation American. So I had to always straddle these two different cultures where American culture is more be your true self and live your life, where Indian culture, where my parents came from and where I was raised in at home, was very much you follow the rules, you don't go outside the box. So I lived a hidden life. I wasn't walking the walk or really living my truth fully out there. So for most of my life, I had a hidden life or like something like living in the closet. And it all blew up in my face when I ended up becoming a liar and a cheater and blew up my first marriage, which was also the biggest blessing of my life because it was the catalyst for my healing.
Integrating consciousness is a channel devised to explore a plethora of modalities accessible in supporting the collective in the exploration and expansion of self, and ultimately integrating what we've learned. The planet is shifting its vibration. Old paradigms and concepts are being challenged. Science is shifting, supporting, and merging the teachings of ancient spiritual beliefs. The masses are feeling the shift, ultimately and collectively expanding consciousness. We are in an incredibly exciting time, yet many of us lack communities, guides, leaders, and teachers to turn to for support because we don't know how to find them. My name is Lelanea Fulton, and I'm a spiritual transcendental mindset coach and unity consciousness mentor. My intention is to create a space that supports individuals seeking personal growth by providing a wealth of knowledge, tools, strategies, insights, practitioners, and language. This will be achieved through the diverse guests I invite to this podcast. So your free and easy support of subscribing, rating, and reviewing this podcast is paramount, as is how such information can move through the platform algorithms. So every month, we will offer free and easy ways that you can acquire free coaching sessions and more with your favorite practitioner. I would also like to invite you to please share any episode that moves you. You never know when a small act of kindness can support a huge energetic shift in a person's life. We are all here to support one another through acts of kindness, and to pass along information is a tremendous act of service. So thank you, and may you recognize the powerful creator you are. Hello, beautiful beings. Today I'm popping in to talk to you about love. So today I have a friend in cohort by the name of Shilpa, and Shilpa is a no bullshit relationship coach who supports her clients in recognizing the energetic patterns that they project into their romantic relationships. She promotes a safe atmosphere of clean your shit up and has a strong historical track record of clients who successfully find love during their work together. And something that I really love and appreciate about Shilpa is that she has this beautiful innate ability to truly meet people where they are at. And so I'd like to introduce to you Shilpa.
Hello, I am so happy to be here. Thank you for that amazing intro. I was just telling you that I love that. I need to steal that.
Yeah, I was totally getting truth bumps as I was saying it, just because it's something that I really do truly appreciate about you and respect about you. There's so many people out there providing services in regards to coaching on all levels. And there's a level of authenticity in a way that I find is missing, but with you, it is very much there. You are very much who you are. You're transparent. You walk the walk, you talk the talk, and you show up to support other people in doing the same. And I love that about you.
I really appreciate that because I started my journey not being that person. I know you know a little bit of my history, but I'm Indian. I come from the South Asian community, but I'm first generation American. So I had to always straddle these two different cultures where American culture is more be your true self and live your life, where Indian culture, where my parents came from and where I was raised in at home, was very much you follow the rules, you don't go outside the box. So I lived a hidden life. I wasn't walking the walk or really living my truth fully out there. So for most of my life, I had a hidden life or like something like living in the closet. And it all blew up in my face when I ended up becoming a liar and a cheater and blew up my first marriage, which was also the biggest blessing of my life because it was the catalyst for my healing. So to me, to hear those words from you, it is a huge compliment because that is my whole goal, is to live in integrity and to live truth and to be able to help other people do the same for themselves, to really come into their own freedom and falling in love with themselves.
So, what I'm hearing is the contrast of how you were living your life has led you to really learn who you are and learn your authenticity and learn your voice and learn, as I said, your truth.
Yeah. Yeah, and it hasn't been an easy journey at all. I'd be curious, actually. This is a question for you because I've been thinking about this lately. There's a lot of pressure I grew up with, and a lot of my clients who are South Asian as well tend to grow up with. Of you have to be the certain way. So they hiding is very much a part of what we normalize. And that also ends up translating into our relationships. So I'm curious, actually. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions here, but I'm going. I'm curious if you grew up with a similar pressure, or where, and was it cultural, or where did it come from if you did experience that?
Yeah, so it is cultural. My mother's side of the family are like fourth, fifth generation Appalachia. So we're talking about Scots Irishmen who came during the first wave of immigrant migration during the potato famine, and they trickled into West Virginia. And West Virginia, if you're familiar with any of the writings of Malcolm Gladwell, he even touches on the book Tipping Point, touches on people from the Appalachia Mountains, specifically West Virginia, and it's considered a culture of honor, meaning that there's a lot of societal rules in a way that they abide by. A lot of it is we never air our dirty laundry, blood before anything else. You keep family secrets really inward. And there are some beautiful aspects of it, which is a handshake is just as valid as a paper contract, if not even more. There is an expectation of honorable conduct or moral conduct within that particular culture, but it is very isolated with not very many people who have moved to that area to burst the bubble. So there's a cultural bubble there, and there still very much are people who abide by that norm of like never exposing truths and living within a controlled air, controlling how others perceive you in a way.
Oh yeah, so then you get it. That's
Mhm,
very similar. Perception's everything, reputation's everything,
mhm.
and if you break those rules, oh God, God help you. Right? It can feel very scary, especially if you grew up. That's how you identified
Yeah.
being a part of this group,
Yes.
and then once you're outside of it,
Yeah.
it is scary.
Yeah. To be
Yeah.
ostracized from that, from
Yes.
the community is for sure death, right? And there's
Yeah.
that still primate, primitive perspective within our tribal mindsets, right? And
Absolutely.
societally, we're moving away from that. We're choosing
Hmm.
chosen families. We're moving away from these constructs and we're welcoming being deemed as the black sheep,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
know
Exactly.
you were.
Oh God, yeah, and still am. But the thing is, it's so funny because now I just saw my family yesterday, and they just definitely see me as the weirdo. So I'm like, okay, that's better than like
Yeah.
the hated one, or like just like she doesn't belong. So
What I'm hearing is you went up from hated to just the weirdo.
just the weirdo. So that's a win for me. I'm okay with that.
Oh. So I want to touch a little bit about your history because I think your history and how you came to become a coach and how you came to learn about your authenticity is a really beautiful story, especially where you've ended up. And I can vouch for Shilpa that the beautiful man that she fell in love with and that is in all of her content is very much real. He exists. He's not a paid actor. And she really does have this beautiful, deep, nurturing, and loving relationship that she works so hard to support other women in attracting and finding within themselves and finding within a partner. And that that wasn't an easy thing to get to.
Oh yeah, definitely not. And even now, as you're saying, I never want people to look at my content and think, oh my God, like she just has it, like it's so perfect, or it still doesn't take work. It's so easy. No, it takes work. It takes intention and it takes work, but maybe not as much as it does when you're with the wrong person, right? Like you're not like killing yourself trying to make this thing work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my own journey, like I said, the first time around when I did get married, I was very much following the rules of, okay, you finish grad school, you get married, you do the thing, whatever. And then it's so funny because like a couple of months before my wedding, I knew I didn't want to get married. I knew I didn't want to marry him. I wasn't ready. But up until that point, I was like, yeah, I wasn't questioning anything. And that's the other thing too, is that this timeline is handed over to you, or it's passed down, and you don't question things. And up until that point, I didn't. I just followed the rules and did what I had to in order to be accepted. So here I am, a couple of months before the wedding, invitations are already out, and I'm like, shit. I remember till this day, like I can remember the conversation in my car with my best friend saying, I don't want to get married, but I can't do anything. I'm stuck in this. I have to marry him because invitations are out. I can't ruin my parents' reputation. I can't ruin my reputation. I can't hurt him, and I can't hurt his family. Yeah, so it was really freaking heavy. And it's so crazy because I think my ex knew too that he wasn't ready to get married. He didn't want to get married. So a couple of days before the wedding, he had gotten drunk and we were like fighting though. Honestly, we were fighting our entire time we were engaged. And that was the only time we were fighting. We weren't really fighting much before that. Why? Because we didn't know how to actually deal with conflict. We didn't know how to fight. So we just quieted our voice and pretended like things weren't happening. And then, of course, they came to bite us in the butt. And a couple of days before the wedding, he like got drunk and was like, I do not want to marry her. I do not want to marry her. So he knew himself. But then we decided, we went through it, and it's not like it was always bad. We did make the most of our relationship. And a majority of people out from the outside never knew anything was wrong.
Of course
I
not.
also didn't. The Instagram pictures, right? We're great. We're traveling, all the things. But I also kept a lot hidden from him as well. My own unhappiness and what I was struggling with, my own pain. And in retrospect, I was hiding so much of myself from him. It's not necessarily that this marriage wasn't right for me. It was, I don't even know who the fuck I am. I don't know what I want. I don't even know if I like myself.
Right.
That's some really hard things for me to be able to admit. And for me, instead of doing that inner work, I was projecting all of my shit onto him, and vice versa. We were both not doing any inner work, and eventually ended up cheating and falling in love with someone. And I was like, okay, I think now this is my out. Someone can love me for me. Like I thought who I was back then was like, he can see my shit and my darkness and love me for it. Whereas my ex wanted to more so control me and change me. And I'm sure I did plenty of crap back to him too. But it was as awful as it was, that was the only way I was willing to leave that marriage. If I had someone come from the outside and be like, I love you and I think you're amazing. And I thought that was love. It definitely was not. But that was better than what I had experienced before. So of course I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. I'm willing to leave my marriage for this. But so we went back and forth for like at least 2 years trying to figure out if I was actually going to leave. And then I finally stepped away. And this time, though, by the time I had already started therapy on my own, and I wanted to make sure I got to a point of, I don't want to leave for a man. I want to make sure I'm making this decision for myself. So I did cut ties with that man and decided to spend some time with myself to figure out if this is the right move for me. And no one believed me that I was going to go ahead and do this, because it took probably about a year after I started bringing things up with my ex, that where my family and everyone else found out that we were having issues. With that, and of course, that was added pressure of, you're crazy, you've gone insane, what's wrong with you, you're mentally unstable, don't make these kind of decisions, all the things. So that just adds so much more. These people that you really want support from are the ones going against you and not asking you, hey, are you happy?
And gaslighting your experience and even questioning your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
which there's a
Yeah.
history of that for women. When women
Oh,
start following their inner voice, their inner truth, their circle starts questioning their mental health.
absolutely. And I love that you brought that up because you're right. When you're breaking
Yeah.
away from the perception or idea that you had formed that everyone else is comfortable with
Yeah.
around you, they're like, oh, she's gone insane. Something must be wrong
Yeah.
with her. Something must be
Midlife
mentally wrong with her.
crisis, mental
Yes.
breakdown.
Yeah. It's actually no, like I'm finally listening to myself and honoring my truth in this. So no one was really trusting the words are coming out of my mouth like she's actually leaving. So I literally had to pick up and move to a completely different state. So I moved to LA at that time for people to take it seriously. Hey, I'm serious. I am actually leaving. And I did. I left in that way. And it was the best decision for myself because I finally got the chance to live. To be whoever I wanted to be because no one knew me there. So as wild as I was, of course I had my crazy face post divorce. And then I was like, okay, all of this other stuff isn't me. What am I actually looking for? And then I ended up finding my husband because I had a crap ton of really crappy situations and then our situationships. And then when I got to that point, I was like, okay, the, whatever I'm doing is not no longer working and it's not fulfilling me. And I think for so long I was so scared of getting back into a relationship because I had been hurt. I had hurt someone else. I didn't trust myself. Also, could I be loyal? Was that possible for me? And then comes along this man that just blows me away. I didn't expect to get into a relationship with him because he was 8 years younger than me. He was moving across the globe, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing long distance. And we ended up hitting it off, and it was the most beautiful thing, but it was didn't come easy because he mirrored to me all of the shit that I had to heal, and I had to do some really hard things and say yes to hard things in order to have this relationship that really ended up flourishing into something so beautiful that I'm really proud of and I'm is my safe space and it's a place that I get to grow. But it all came from within me too. Yes, he's a beautiful human being that we are definitely like matched spiritually and so like we've probably done lifetimes together, but I had to start shifting in how I treated myself and how I showed up in relationships and whether I was willing to repeat past patterns that were
Mm.
sabotaging me in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, damn. That's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's for all of us, right? All of us
Hmm.
have these patterns that are learned. So they're learned from family dynamics or whatever culture or environment that
Yes.
we've grown up into, the whole nature versus nurture concept. And they're also learned behavior that we see growing up on social media and films. And what I hear is in the beginning of your relationship, you were looking for someone to save you. And you had to say to
Yes.
yourself, I'm not going to leave this relationship for another man. I need to leave it for me, recognizing I need me to save me. Because jumping ship for another ship that might not even be a ship that you really want to be on is just repeating a pattern.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that because I always say the therapist at that time that was in my life, I say he taught me how to save my own life. And before that, I was looking for someone else to save me, to take care of me, to give me the love that my parents were struggling to give to me because they just didn't know how. So I looked for that in a man. And then I saw that in my ex husband. But then it turned into this relationship where we were both taking from each other rather than pouring into each other and pouring into ourselves too. So then it does not work when you're coming from that place.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I've learned in doing a lot of my own work is that we like to believe that women are always looking to be saved, right? Because we've grown up on these really beautiful cartoon stories and romance concepts of a prince in shining armor concept. But
Mhm.
it is equal. Both men and women are looking to be saved from themselves. Women are looking for a
Yes,
man who's going to come and save them and protect them and take care of them and make their life beautiful, shiny, romantic, and happy. And men are looking to be saved by that mother figure that they never really had, right? They're looking for that nurturing.
absolutely.
They're looking to be baby. They're looking to be, all of us are wanting unconditional love. And it manifests in these different belief systems or these different stories that we tell ourselves. And men and women are both looking to be saved.
Yes. And as you're saying that, I'm literally thinking of so many of my clients who have been in relationships where they're mothering their men. And yes, but what ends up happening is they end up in situationships or relationships that end up going nowhere because as when they're mothering, they allow that child, just as a lot of mothers will do with their sons, to literally walk all over them, have zero requirements, or maybe say a thing or two, but then that child doesn't give a shit what you're saying and will do whatever you want, do whatever he wants because he knows he'll always be taken back. He'll always be loved through that. And so in relationships, though, it does not work. You cannot do that. You think that's what's going to get him to love you or to choose you, but what ends up happening is that he becomes resentful and he also ends up saying, "Oh, I can walk. I'll come back. I can go do whatever I want to do. I'll treat her however I want to treat her. And I will always be taken back." And then she becomes resentful and frustrated and angry. But then he also was like, in his head, even if he doesn't say it out loud to you, he also resents you for being like his mother. But then loves it's like this weird love-hate relationship, but you always go back and forth. So what's really necessary in that point, I love that, is when you're coming back into that energy of saving yourself, you realize in this moment, I need to have higher standards. I need to vocalize those standards and requirements and be willing to walk away if a man cannot meet them. And realizing if it's not him, it's going to be someone else out there for me who can. But you have to be in your power. There's no way around that. Otherwise, you will end up in a relationship where you feel like his mom.
And there is a difference between standards and expectations. And when we say standards and expectations, there's a lot of people who haven't really done the work, or maybe they just started dabbling and they think, okay, my boundaries are actually me trying to control this other person. And my standards are expectations. And that is not what standards are. Standards are something that you hold for yourself, just like boundaries are for yourself. So you cannot expect a partner to treat you a specific way if you don't treat yourself that way. You can't expect them to value you if you don't value you, right? You can't expect them to love you if you don't love you. If you want to be loved unconditionally, you must learn to love yourself unconditionally, because what we're attracting outside of us is a reflection of how we treat ourselves in the areas that we need to work on or want to work on, because it's what's holding us back from having the relationship, regardless of the dynamic that we're wanting to have.
Yes, our relationship and our lives are always a reflection of what's happening in here.
Mhm,
And that's why one of my pillars of my work is you've got to own your shit.
mhm.
You have to take radical responsibility because that's where you also realize I have a lot of power in this. I
Yeah,
am not a victim.
yeah,
I'm creating these scenarios and situations. I'm unintentionally, even if you don't realize, you're subconsciously choosing these
yeah. You're
situations, right?
creating it. You're literally
You're creating them.
creating it. And as long as you stay in a victim mentality mindset of this is happening to you, that you have no power, you have no control, you always find yourself in these situations. I attract abusive men, or I attract crazy men, or I attract whatever. As long as you are creating a mentality of victimhood, you are going to create a reality that it's confirmation bias that's going to prove your perspective true. So when you stop abiding by that and you start recognizing, I put myself here. It's not that I attract these type of people. I'm attracted to these type of people because it allows me to play out the reality and the perspective of self that I see myself within or in.
Absolutely. And that's the interesting part too. A lot of my clients are they're successful, they're intelligent, they're really pretty, they're beautiful. And they will say, if I ask them, like, oh, a lot of them answer this question, yeah, I'm actually pretty confident. I was like, okay, that's great. But their self-worth is in the shitter. So their confidence is very much based on accomplishments, what they do, what they look like, how much money they make, how successful they are, all externals. And whether a man chooses them or not, whether it's someone finds them attractive or not, all externals. But the self worth is lacking because this is where the deep shit is from. Like, how did our parents treat us? what kind of unprocessed trauma do we have still left behind that's leaving stories of I am not worthy of this love. This love is not possible for me. I've never experienced it before, so I can't get that. And because they've also never experienced it, they can't comprehend or really create an image or picture of what it is they're really looking for. So whatever qualities they're looking for, they say they're wanting, it's very superficial until they start dating, doing this deeper work with me. I'm like, girl, no, that is not that. And it still blows me away where they will say, oh my gosh, this man was the love of my life. I don't know if I'll find anyone better than him. And then I say, hey, describe him to me. Tell him why he's the love of your life. Because all the stories I'm hearing is he never chose me. He didn't want to marry me. He made excuses for why he didn't want to marry me. He thought he would make comments about my body when I gained a little bit of weight. He would choose his parents or his mom over me. And I'm just like, wow, if anything, I'm hearing a list of reasons why
He's not the love of
he's
your
not it.
because if he's the love of
Exactly.
your life, he would have chose you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
If
I
he's the love of your life, he would choose you and make it fucking known no matter who
yeah,
is around.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can identify before I did my inner work, that was very much me. That
Yeah.
my self-worth was very much about my external components, my external elements, right? Like success, money, my title, where I was in terms of climbing the ladder, what I looked like, physical attributes. And if a relationship didn't work out because I wasn't getting my expectations met, not even my needs, my expectations met, because how you treated me, how I expected you to treat me a certain way. And if you didn't treat me that way, then clearly you didn't love me or care about me. Right.
Absolutely. And another thing about expectations, they're never vocalized.
No, they're
They're
invisible.
literally here.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
it's constant. It's this constant game of what you just said.
Yeah.
If he does this or doesn't do this, he does not love me.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't think I'm worthy of his love. Or I have to
Yeah.
do this in order to get
Yeah.
more love. So it is, you're constantly trying to prove your
Yes.
subconscious beliefs that I am not worthy of love.
And you can find it because if you don't love yourself, you can always find that you're not worthy of love outside of yourself. Until you love yourself, then even the man breaking up with you is a form of love. When I started learning to love myself at such a deep level, when that relationship did end, and as you do the inner work and you start loving yourself, the way relationships end changes significantly. And so then even a relationship ending was an act of love. And I could say, yeah, he really loved me to do that. He set me free and let me go because staying in this relationship with him, it wasn't right. Of course, there was connection. Maybe there wasn't chemistry, or maybe there was chemistry and not connection, right? Maybe there was compatibility without chemistry, right? So one or two of the three might have been there, but the fact that third one wasn't there would have meant that it would have been hell. It would have been a really forced connection. Really, it would have been a really forced connection. And the fact that this person chose to walk away or chose to let the relationship go or chose to bring up the intentions to move away from one another in that specific dynamic was an act of love.
Absolutely. That's when you get to say, thank you. Thank you for being able to walk away and free me. And that's where it comes from, that shift from victim mindset to, oh no, I have a lot of power and say in this. This actually just recently happened to my client where she was dating someone and they were talking. They hadn't officially met yet, but they hadn't met on a dating app and they were talking for a couple, like 2 months. And they're building this relationship, or like she's interested, and they actually meet in person. And this guy was clearly saying one thing and wanting another, meaning he's like super busy in life and he's, yeah, I want to be exclusive and things like that. And then all of a sudden after they met, he's, oh, I don't have the time. I'm really busy. I'm in this busy phase in my life. And then so went back on his words. And I said, you are so lucky because he actually did respect you enough to tell you that. Now the ball's in your court to whether you're going to walk away or not, right? And Yeah. So and I told her it's because you're also shifting your own energy. But for a second, she was brought back into past patterns of, oh my God, why did he do this? What is he making this mean? And then she's making it mean something about her. Something is wrong with me, or what was did I not look pretty enough that day, or this and that. But once you realize, once you can come to that place of deep self-love and self-knowing and self-trust, like, oh no, he's freeing me. Thank goodness this happened right now.
Absolutely. And to be in a relationship where you're constantly to be any in any dynamic where you're constantly looking for the underlining meaning, right? What that is literally a hell. When someone says something to you and you're like, they actually meant something different. They constantly like conspiring that there's a different hidden meaning or hidden agenda. That is, and I know people like this in my past, and it is some of the most exhausting personalities to be around because it's a lack of trust. Just take what that other person is saying point blank. If that person is saying, I don't really have time for this relationship, for you to sit there and try to like conspire, why did he say it in the beginning and then he's not saying it now? What's the underlining meaning? Is it really that I'm just not as pretty as he thought? That's crazy making. He was in and now he's out. Let him go.
Yes, exactly. And that hidden agenda is, first of all, it does definitely come from our childhood, especially if you didn't have parents who communicated and helped you process tough situations, especially between them, where you thought like love was being taken away. So then your mind automatically goes, you're stuck in that child brain of yours, thinking like there is a hidden meaning behind this action. Like maybe he likes me and this is way of showing love or whatever. You'll create whatever crazy thoughts you want around what is happening.
Just a gentle reminder that if you're doing the inner work or feeling called for deeper self exploration and transformation, that my practice is here to support you. My role as a transcendental mindset coach is to serve as a compassionate guide and mirror, reflecting your inner brilliance and potential because you came to this life with everything it is that you need to align with your path and purpose. In doing this, I offer a range of services tailored to meet the unique needs of each client, incorporating the support of evidence-based coaching techniques, meditation, mindfulness practices, gene keys shadow work, pattern recognition, somatic work, inner parts work, kinetic, and breath work to facilitate inner balance and alignment alongside being trauma informed. We will work in tandem as I support you in integrating or embodying your newfound awareness and heightened openness to a higher form of consciousness. It is my intention to support you as you architecturally design the reality you want to participate in and the life that you want to live. My practice supports you in being a masterful creator of intentions. You can contact me via my website. The link is in the show notes. So thank you, and please enjoy the remainder of the episode.
At the moment, and you're right, it is very exhausting. They're constantly up here and never in the present, so they can't even enjoy themselves. So even if they did find a really amazing man, they will sabotage the shit out of it because they don't believe anyone could genuinely just like them or care about them or
Yeah.
want to be around them.
Yeah. And ultimately will be the destruction of the relationship because you can't build upon that.
Yes,
If you're in a relationship
exactly.
where you need the other person to constantly prove their love to you, their affection, or why they even want to be in the relationship, and you're constantly questioning, why do you want to be with me? It is just, it's an unhealthy
Yeah,
representation
it's
of that
exhausting for the
dynamic.
both
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, knowing your background, why did you choose coaching to go into as a service or to others or sharing yourself and your story? Why coaching?
Yeah, so I debated between going back to grad school for another master's in like therapy or counseling or coaching. And I looked into both and I just said, ugh, I really don't like it just didn't call me counseling. And it's so great because I think you and I had talked about this too, because after we had even gone through our programs, I started hearing from a lot of therapists that they were burnt out and some of them are becoming coaches themselves. So I was like, okay, I made a great decision. But it was more so I had seen, and something happened yesterday actually that reminded me of my bigger why. And a distant, like a family member who I'm close with, lost a close family member to them because of suicide. And I had attempted suicide at 16. I remember like majority of my life feeling like I fucking hated myself. Right. I hated myself. I hated who I was. I didn't even know who I was. I had to live by other people's rules. Like I said, we're talking about the externals. My self-worth was in the hands of everyone else. And the story behind why this person, this kid, he's 18 years old, committed suicide was because a woman rejected him, or a girl that he professed his love to rejected him. It's just like, Jesus Christ, like there is so much more. Like, this is the problem with your power being outside of yourself and looking for validation outside of you. And I am so grateful to be doing this work right now, because for a very long time, I was like, oh, I'm going to push it off till later in life, like when I'm wiser or whatever. It was just an excuse. I was scared. I was scared to step into this role and to be able to say, hey, I can actually help other women. And since I have, it has been the most rewarding. Like, I was made for this. I was made for this. And to see what's happening in my clients' lives, it is the greatest gift of my life to be able to witness their growth and their transformations, where they were doing very similar things to what I was doing before, looking for validation in men, having sex when you didn't want to have sex, tolerating relationships that didn't fulfill you, and where men treated you like shit, misusing your body, not knowing how to create healthy relationships, like all of these things. And for me to be able to help them and guide them through this journey and walk alongside them to create the life and the love that they're wanting. But more than all of that is to create the foundation of love. Like, that's where they're starting, that they're actually falling in love with themselves and treating themselves with love and respect, so they can get and attract that and choose that from others, like within others. So it's so much deeper than like strategy. You and I talked about this before. My work, I don't tell you what to do. It's, yes, okay, if you want mentorship and advice, I will always offer that. But what I really help my clients do is fall in love with themselves, for them to come back into their own power, to access their own intuition, so they know what's best for them, so they can hear their own voice, not and stop listening to everyone else's. So really living their own truth and being bold and brave in that, so they can have what they're really wanting out of life, so they can feel fulfillment and joy. And that's what I help them do. It is a soul journey, a spiritual one. It is not just, this is how you find a high value man. Yeah, it goes so much deeper.
Yeah, that gave me truth bumps. Like it just, yeah, it really brought on a full body feeling that you really are stepping into your power and stepping into a place of love by supporting other people to learn their authentic voice and to learn themselves, because you can't attract your equal if you don't know who you are. You can't attract your true partner if you're pretending to be somebody else. You can't attract a true mate if your voice sounds like the voice of the person next to you and you're being guided and told who to be. And God knows, like, you look at pop culture and you go on social media for just a few moments and you can see this world of people mimicking and copying one another. And there's a lack of like authenticity in the voices and in the personas and the characteristics, and even how people are manipulating themselves physically to all look the same. And it's like, how can you find your mate? How can you find your equal? How can you find this beautiful partner to be in step with you that can love you for who you truly are if you're not expressing who you truly are?
Yeah, if you don't know who you are and if you're
Yeah.
not out there living it, then you
Mm-mm.
will never feel fulfilled in any relationship, because what
Mm-mm.
you're needing to really repair is the relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that you do one-on-one, right? And you have really fabulous retreat workshop locations.
Thank you.
One in Bali and then the next one in Paris coming up.
Yes. So yes, I do one-on-one. I do limited spots for one-to-one, because they get a lot of energy. There's a lot of work and energy. And so we do calls, but then also they get support like Monday through Thursday is what I'm moving forward to doing. And but I do group programs as well. So things like You're the Prize, which is now turning into a year-long membership. and they get to really do the work of what we're talking about, of coming back into their power, their truth, discovering who they are so they can stand in that. And then another group program that actually helps women who are out in the dating world and be able to navigate the deeper work while also having strategy of dating and choosing healthier men and partners. And then I'm doing my retreat. Last year I did one in Bali and it was so beautiful. It was called Heal After Heartbreak. And it was really beautiful to witness these women have beautiful transformations and in 7 days. And that's so cool about in-person experiences. It's just life changing and it happens so much faster, which is so cool. And so I'm doing one again this year in Paris, and I'm so excited. It's at the end of the month. And this one is about attracting love, but it's about you becoming the love first, for you falling in love with yourself first. And it's not just an outside confidence piece that's validated by your what you look like or what you're wearing or whatever, but it's more the self-worth and the deeper parts. But it's an inside out transformation because we're going to be doing activities and fun stuff in Paris, which really helps you to step into and embody that, what I like to call spicy queen energy.
What I can really say for the viewers who haven't been to a retreat or a workshop is to be with another group of women or men if it's male based or if it's multi-sex, but just to be with a group of people who are all there for also their own inner work and transformation is absolutely groundbreaking, because I can't say enough about one-on-one because that's the bulk of my work. But what I can say is that in a group setting, what you're seeing your neighbors or your fellow attendees working on is a reflection of areas that you also desire to work on or want to work on, but it might not be the primary focus. So as you come with your own story and belief system, and you're seeing that all the others around you are mirroring a similar belief system, or one that you probably didn't even realize, it's so buried, so subconscious, someone else is bringing it up in you. So it allows you a much more clear perspective of self, because now you're discovering aspects of yourself that like were really truly shadowed and hidden. And as you're watching people have breakthroughs, which in my one-on-one sessions, I would say that every session my client is having a breakthrough, maybe quite a few, but in a retreat you're just having these like one after another of breakthroughs, and it's this ripple effect within your body and this deep awareness that's starting to happen. And when you leave that retreat or that workshop, you're on cloud nine. It is a huge energy shift. You feel more in connection with yourself than you ever have, and in connection with others because you've received this beautiful energetic support of other attendees with you.
You really are on cloud nine when you're leaving a retreat experience. And I love how you said it, just like you're literally, it's a vortex. You're literally put in this place of like everything's being mirrored back to you. And you're just getting all of these, what I like to call, what so many of it, downloads of like, oh my God, this is a message for me, or this is what I'm supposed to be working on, or wow, that finally made sense to me about myself. And also to be able to be supported and really safe in that environment where everyone is experiencing very similar things or can relate to you in some way. It's life changing because it's different from if you're going on a trip with friends and no one's really talking about the deeper work, or they don't know how, or it's not, and they're not being guided
Yeah.
through a
There's no
journey.
safe space or container
There's no
being
safe
developed.
space.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's so different because I had a recent client who was like, oh, why would I go on a retreat? I just go travel to that location myself. I was like, it's not about the travel. Like it's about the experience. You will change your life in a matter of days. You won't come back the same person. And this year I've been on a bunch, and I told my husband every time, say goodbye to this version of me, of Shilpa, because you'll never see her again. Because it's true. I have changed every single time I've gone on a retreat or gone away. And I've been very intentional about that too, to be open to that experience.
Yeah. Even as a facilitator or a coach, going in and hosting that retreat and holding that safe container, you come back different
Yes.
yourself as well, because what everyone else is working on is also a mirror of your own inner work that you've already done
Yes.
or some aspects that you haven't worked on yet that are being called to be worked on. And what I can say is like all of the work and supporting these other women or men has really allowed me a much deeper relationship with myself. So it's transformational for
Mm,
all people
it
involved.
is. That's why I love in person so much. Yes, it does help me transform as well.
Yeah. And there's a similarity having done plant medicine and being in ceremony regarding a specific plant. Like the insights that I had were extremely powerful. And then being in a space with a group of people who are also there for the same inner work. And if you're in the right healthy space, there's no sexual energy that's leaking out. People are very controlled, and because they're all there for the same thing, they're not there to provoke desire or attention from others. So if you're in a healthy plant medicine space, the transformation as well and the insights are deep and powerful. But because the consciousness has been shifted or altered through the plant itself, for me, it's not as powerful as being in my right consciousness, not being altered through a plant medicine and being with a group of others who are also desiring, because it's that group intention of everyone coming to do the same work, to do deep inner work and to do self-analysis and self-awareness while supporting other people and being in this particular state of consciousness that I think is so incredibly powerful. So even for somebody who has done plant medicine of many different varieties, I find that this type of work is even more powerful. And I'd like to touch on your particular clients. You're predominantly female, right?
Yes, I work with all females right now. I want to move into relation into couples, but
Mhm.
that might be in the next couple
Mhm.
of months or so.
Yeah. Yeah, I work 51% of my clients are male.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And I
I
think it's
love
really
that.
interesting because there's a huge rhetoric online amongst women of there's a little bit of man hate that's popular right
Mm,
now because it's if they would only do the work, the inner work, I wouldn't be
uh-huh.
lonely or dating wouldn't be so hard. And I've done the inner work because I've done the inner work. You should do the inner work. And so there's this backlash, right? And what I like to let my clients know is if you really done the inner work, then you're not pointing your finger and calling out people who aren't doing the inner work because you feel lonely, right? Or because you haven't found a partner. Like
Yes.
that's again victimhood.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
not the inner
Yes.
work.
Absolutely. So I actually even started a program with for women who are in relationships because I needed a place for my clients who are finding love, and I'm like, oh, here, now I need to support you through that because that's a lot of work itself. But it's funny because some of these women who end up in relationships or who are married or have been married for a couple of years, it's easier to point the finger and say, my husband this, or my spouse this, or my partner this, when if they were willing to actually point the finger back at themselves and realize, oh shit, a lot of this is my own crap. A
Yeah, so
lot of
it's
this is my
again
own crap.
victimhood, victim mentality.
Yes.
And the thing about victim mentality mindset is that there's denial, right? So in victim mentality mindset, you're always looking at everything outside of yourself and everyone outside of yourself is the problem. So you're never able to look at yourself. So when someone points out this is victim mentality mindset, victimhood, then there's an immediate knee jerk reaction of no, it's not. There's reactivity and denial and like the inability to even look at themselves because again, the problem is outside of the self. And it's really hard to crack. It's really hard to get into. And for these women who are participating in this mindset, because there's not enough men out there doing the inner work, I do want to let you know, honey, there's a lot of really beautiful men who are sitting in their emotions, who are doing the inner work, who are finding themselves breaking patterns of being in relationships where they were doormats. They were being walked all over. They were treated poorly in abusive relationships of women, like abusing emotionally and psychological abuse and physical abuse. Women, I don't think, understand and I just did an episode with Trey Bell, who's a wilderness coach for men.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
okay.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Trey and I went to college.
yeah, he's doing some beautiful work supporting
Ah,
men and hosting men's circles. And so is his partner. And they're just doing really beautiful work. And the emotions are real for men. Like what men are going through in a time like this, if you really, as a woman, and I'm directing this towards other women, the greatest work that you can do on yourself is also having compassion for the other and recognizing what they're going through. And there are just really beautiful men out there doing the work. So keep doing your
absolutely.
own inner work, and you will find one who's done his own inner work.
Yeah. And the thing is, it might not even look the same, right? The way they're doing their inner work, it might not look yeah, exactly. But it doesn't mean that they're not getting it at all, because you brought that up of women abusing men in relationships and things like that. And because, especially if they're pointing the finger so often, they end up also emasculating their men. So these women are like, I want a masculine man who leads. But I'm like, okay, girl, so are you giving him the opportunity? Are you building him up? A lot of these women aren't. They're breaking them down. So this is another pattern I am seeing in relationships, and they're not even able to see within themselves. And yeah, this is why it's women have so much power in relationships, and we're not even recognizing it. But the more work that we do on ourselves, we actually help and inspire our men to do it in their own way as well. Even if it doesn't look like, oh, I'm going to go sit with a coach or do therapy, whatever it is, I really actually highly recommend that. But even us being able to do our own work and come with love and compassion and understanding, where we stop breaking them down, that makes a great impact on their lives when they get to also receive the love and the space to express themselves. Because what you said is true. Men have it hard too. It's not just us. They have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. And especially when we're saying we want a provider, we want a leader, we want a man who does this and this. Okay, what about his life struggles? What about his traumas? What about all the things that he experienced in the past and still experiences, his fears and his insecurities? We don't create the space for that. That's a huge problem that I am seeing. And honestly, a mistake I was making myself in my own relationship when I realized, oh shit, he deserves space, he needs it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can say in my past, before I did my work, I was emotionally and psychologically abusive to my partners, not knowing that I was, because it was environmental, it was taught. I had seen it through generations. And it's not to say that it was only just women being abusive. It was both men and women being abusive to one another. And it was intergenerational, right? I'd seen it through these generations, and I was replicating, even though I said I don't want to be anything like what I've grown up around or in or environmentally. And I was doing all the work I could possibly do, which to me was moving very far away from the roots. And it was all external, right? It wasn't internal. And it took me internally doing the work and seeing the mirror of myself and the mirror of my experience and the mirror of my history throughout all of my partners to really recognize, like, there's a difference between challenging your partner and abusing your partner. And as women, it is our job to challenge our partner. It is ingrained in us. It is a part of our DNA. We need them to create this masculine container of safety. And as the woman, it is our innate job to test that boundary and see if that boundary will break, because that boundary is representative, or that container is representative of how masculine this man is, being how well he's able to provide safety for his feminine partner and for his family. And safety can look very different to different women. But for men who recoil at the idea of a woman testing him, is a man who is not confident in himself and his ability to provide a masculine container of safety, and probably doesn't even know what it is.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, they probably understand the superficial qualities of what it means to be masculine, maybe paying for things, opening doors, whatever that is, but it goes beyond that. It's about creating emotional safety, and to hear pushback from a woman, of course, that she's communicating in a loving way, and then be like, oh shit, okay, I think it's time for me to grow up in some way, right? To be challenged and say, okay, can I rise to the occasion? Can I learn something here? Can I actually take this feedback and do something with it? So yeah, and we both expand each other in healthy relationships. So it is relationships, if you're with the right partner and you're doing your own work, you will 100x your life. To have a partner who is literally your ride or die, will is your number one cheerleader, your supporter, you will, especially when you're feeling that safety, you're out of survival mode. So you're now in this creative space of
Mhm.
what magic can I create
Yeah.
on this planet, on
Yeah.
this earth,
Yeah.
right? It is so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Because you're
Can I
no longer like trying to muscle or control or create this relationship. The relationship just is. It's being.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
energy of two of you coming together. So there's no white knuckling and the nervous system is calm. That's something that I work on with my clients a lot. They ask, how do I know if I'm creating a container of safety for my female partner? This is my favorite response because it is so true, but it's how much does your woman feel comfortable to just play and act like a
Mhm.
girl, like a
Mhm.
little girl?
Mhm.
Do you see her
Mhm.
reverting to a playful, very girly, just
Yeah.
being goofy? Like, how well can she do that with you? Because when a woman is leaning in her masculine, she doesn't have the freedom to play like that because she's
Yeah.
creating the container of safety. She feels like she has to control and manipulate you because you're not doing it. There's resentment, there's anger,
Yeah.
there's a nervous system that's dysregulated, there's snappy, snarky because there's resentment, right? When
Yeah.
your woman is just at ease with a calm nervous system and is playing and giggling and being creative and artistic and is coming up with all these ideas, let's do this for the
Yeah.
house, let's do this, let's that's when a woman is just really vibing in this safe space. And I would say that is a huge marker aside from communication, being able
Yeah.
to have a back and forth communication without reactivity, without judgment, without finger pointing. I like to observe couples and I can
Yeah.
see when a woman is being very playful with her partner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I can see where she's at in that relationship.
Yeah, and you're so spot on about that. That is with my husband. He's the first person I could have ever been this goofy with, and I'm like, I don't think I even realized I was this weird. But with him, I'm like, oh, this goofy side is always out, and it's so fun. And he might think you're crazy, but he also loves it. Like he loves it, and he celebrates it, and it's the coolest thing to have that space for someone's like for you to play like that, for you to just play like that. It's so fun. Absolutely. To be loved like that is such a gift.
I
It's such
know.
a gift.
I
To
know.
oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
And I do see that with you and your hubby.
Yeah, we're really
There's
goofy.
a
I
lot
love
of play.
it. Yeah. Okay, so Spicy Queen on it, it's everything we've been talking about here. She's doing the inner work, right? She's living her truth, being bold. And when I say bold, it's not like you have to be out loud and yelling or like wearing bright colors. I love to, but you don't have to be that way. It's more so just being authentic and true to yourself. And you're no longer getting your validation or looking for validation outside of you, that your power is within here, and you start to know how to recognize and like to use that to shift your energy to be really magnetic and call in what it is that you're wanting, and that you're attracting when it comes to love and relationships, that you're attracting that partner from that the truest version of you, and you're no longer looking to them to validate your worth or making their attention means something about you, or their lack of attention means something about you, and that you're able to recognize your own triggers, do the deeper work to be able to work with your nervous system, and then being able to recognize what your needs are, your desires are, have higher standards for yourself, and be able to communicate that with love, not manipulation. And where you're able to be in your feminine. A lot of my clients, a majority of them, have been in survival mode for most of their life. So they've always had to take care of themselves. And they struggle with things like being playful or being comfortable in their bodies. And I don't mean just by the way they look, more so just being able to be safe in their bodies. They're constantly up here thinking that they're not able to be creative and be able to receive. So you're able to receive love, you're asking for what you want, you're able to also open yourself up to it. and that you know who you are, you know what you want, and you go out and get it, and that you're not coming from the scarcity mindset thinking it's not possible for you or it's not out there for you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love
Yeah.
this. And this is the bulk of your work right now, um,
Yeah.
is working with women regarding this spicy queen persona.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I just kind of love putting a name on it to make it make more sense. And that you're also being very brave in your life. Bravery has served me very well. You have to be brave on on this journey. There's no way around it, because especially in love, that you have to show up in your truth, to speak your truth. It requires bravery. It requires bravery to actually also have the kind of relationship you're looking for, because it freaking is hard to look at your own shit and to say, oh, wow, I am like a fuck up or a bitch or whatever it is, or like I screwed up here. And it's, if you've never been given that love and the compassion before while growing up, it's going to feel very unsafe for you at first to not then lean into it. And to be able to create safety for yourself and then also safety for this other person. So it requires bravery. This work absolutely does. So that's a big part of the work as well, or being a spicy queen.
So, aside from recognizing that emotional immaturity is one of the primary issues that we're seeing in relationships, which also express different types of narcissism, right? So, not speaking to narcissistic personality disorder, but just narcissistic behavior, we tend to find very much associated with immature behavior or emotional immaturity, right? Which is to be expected of people who are teenagers or in their teen years, because that's literally part of the brain's development. We're in a stage that we're most highly expressing narcissistic behaviors. But a lot of men and women are not maturing out of this stage. So they're bringing a lot of that emotional immaturity and narcissistic behavior, which is on a spectrum. There's some people that are just really intense in it, and there's other people who are just dabbling in it. But we see a lot of that in relationships, and that's lack of doing the inner work, a lack of self awareness, reactivity. Aside from those things, what else are we seeing that's really the demise of healthy relationships these days?
Yeah, as maybe controversial as this might sound, hooking up too soon.
Oh, of
So
course.
hooking up, yeah, hooking up too soon, and then also becoming exclusive too soon.
Yeah.
Whereas I highly recommend to my clients taking at least 2 to 3 months to date multiple people at the same
Yeah.
time. And when I say date multiple people, you're not having sex with multiple people, you're not hooking up with multiple people, you're actually just getting to know multiple people
Yeah.
and go on dates.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's actually
And
what dating is.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
So
what
everyone
dating is.
always say that you're like having sex with all these people. It's like, no,
That's
that
not
is not
dating.
what
Yeah.
yeah, that's not what I'm recommending. Because then when you throw sex into the mix and you're hooking up, even making out, then you are confusing yourself. When you have those love hormones, those hormones that come with physical affection, then you are going to not make healthy choices and decisions for yourself. You're going to start making decisions based off of fantasy. So date multiple people at the same time and stop having sex honestly before you're exclusive, before you realize that, oh, this person it's worth becoming committed to and seeing where this can go. We're both on the same life path, or we want marriage, whatever. I help my clients get married, but so if we're on the same path, we want the same things. Now let's commit and then go from there. But before that, you shouldn't be having sex, you shouldn't be making out, you're getting to know multiple people. Especially as women, we don't know, if you especially if you want to have children, because women are like, oh my god, I can't do that. But if you want to have children, we are more on a time, like a
So wait, they
on a
say
clock.
they not
Yeah,
have sex?
that plus they are weirded out by the idea of dating multiple men at once. I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
oh my gosh, but what are you going to do? How do you know if this
Yeah.
guy is actually the right
You
one
don't
for
have
you?
anything to, yeah. You don't
You
have
only figure
experience.
that out. Yeah, you don't figure that out till months later. And then you're like, oh my God, now I have to start all over
Yeah.
again. And
Yeah.
then here's all the extra trauma. Yeah, that's why you don't invest your
Yeah.
precious time and energy before you actually realize and figure out whether this person is right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I second that with men and women, both of my
Yeah.
clients, I ask them, it's their choices, but in that coaching container where there's some mentorship and guidance, it's not just full ICF coaching style, is a request to like, please don't hook up. Hook up is a very, I want to even say toxic expression of connecting with another person. But please take time. Wait till you fall in love with this person. You're spending time with them and you're falling in love with them, and allow intimacy to be an additional expression of intimacy. Become intimate, practice intimacy. Can this person hold space? Can this person hold eye contact? Can this person touch you without it immediately becoming sexualized, right? Can this person truly connect with you? Because as women and men, we want to feel like we're loved unconditionally. But if you're entering into a relationship that's based on sexual desire, there's already a condition. You've created the condition. So if you want to be loved unconditionally, remove the conditions and be present, and really, can I love this person, and do I feel loved back?
Yeah. And, and to that point is it's easier to jump into bed than it is to actually create the emotional intimacy for most people. So that's why they run to it, that they bypass the harder work by doing that. And they think,
Yeah, it's the quick fix mentality or the quick access mentality. And also what we know is, and there's science behind this, but after sexual intercourse, after having sex with somebody, a lot of women will try to use intimacy as a way to secure the relationship. Maybe we don't really think is really into us, so we'll just have sex with him and then we'll lure him in. But that's a woman projecting her experience. Only women do that because those feel good love chemicals actually surge in us after intimacy. Whereas with men, it's the reverse, it lowers. So there's a higher potential of a man after I hook up being even repulsed by you more than being attracted to you.
exactly. And it's so funny that you just said that because I had a client play with this and experiment with this because she's been doing the opposite. And I said, try this and see what happens. And he literally said, oh my God, I respect you even more now. And I was like, yeah, exactly. As absurd as it sounds, you're right.
Yeah.
We are projecting our own experience after having
Yeah.
sex. Oh my God, he's going to really want to
No.
commit to me after this.
No.
No,
He
girl,
wants to
he
run.
can have, yeah, he wants to run or he can have sex and do that with multiple people and
Yes.
not feel a
In
damn
the same
thing.
day. In the
In
same
the same
day.
day. Exactly. And not feel a
Yeah.
damn thing.
And what women, I think what we really are missing is from relationships is the spiritual component and the understanding
Yeah.
of energy. As women,
Yes.
our womb has a consciousness of its own, right? Energy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're bringing someone into us. We're bringing another energy. We're not just bringing the happy, feel good energy, we're bringing their trauma. So you're
Yes.
feeling inside of your body, you're taking on not only your trauma that you need to work on, but the emotional trauma that's being left behind energetically from this partner. And so you're sitting there for the next 3 days in this person's energy field, holding on to it, and you don't even know this person. You have no
Yeah.
idea how toxic this person is because
Yeah.
I guarantee you, people do not start revealing their true selves until about 3 to 4 months into a
Yes.
relationship. And that's if they're
100%.
having sex. If you're not having
Yes.
sex, it can take up to 6 months before an
Yeah.
individual starts taking off the masks of who they want you to believe that they are and start showing you who they are, how they handle conflict, where their ego is at. So you can,
Mhm.
who the hell knows what you're taking into you?
Yeah, and then imagine also, as you're talking about energy, you're sleeping with this guy who's not even sure if he likes you. And then all of a sudden, you guys hook up, you don't hear from him, and now you're anxious about, oh my God, did I say the wrong thing? Did I do the wrong thing? What did I wear? It's because he doesn't even know, like you're taking on his energy of, I don't even know if I like this girl. And now you're questioning whether you even like yourself. Like
Yeah.
you're
Right. Yeah. You
right.
start mirroring his perspective of you when he went,
Yes.
because you're taking on another person's energy. And
Yes.
there's really interesting studies that talk about it, but sometimes some of them have said that it takes 3 days, 5 days for that energy to be released. And regardless of whether it's 3 days, 5 days, or 5 hours, why would
Yeah.
you want why would you choose to sit in the energy of someone who doesn't even know if they like you?
Yes,
Why would you sit in that? Because
exactly.
you start seeing yourself in that light. Like, why?
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You do
Yeah.
start questioning whether you are worthy of this guy's attention.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do you do that to yourself?
Yeah. It starts messing
Yeah.
with your self-worth.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's such a great point. And so this whole feminist movement, of course, it served us in certain ways, but when you're starting to lean into that, we can have sex with whoever we want. It doesn't even matter, like pleasure over everything else. It's girl, you're taking on all these people's energies, like all of these men. And yeah,
It's
no,
also our
thank you.
consciousness level. And I totally get like the feminist movement was completely necessary and I'm appreciative
Yes,
of it,
yes,
but it's a pendulum swing because
yes.
you know, we were deprived of something, and we fought for it. The pendulum swung to an extreme where now we're like,
Hmm.
we don't need no man.
We don't need
I can do everything a
exactly.
man can do. I can sleep around just like a man. Our chemical makeup is completely different.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
can sleep around. You do have the freedom. And no, you should not be labeled a whore. If a man's not labeled
yeah.
a whore, you should not be labeled a whore. Yes,
Hmm.
you can do exactly what a man does in this field, right? In these
Hmm.
aspects in this way. But it doesn't mean that there's not a karmic ripple effect, right?
Hmm.
Karmic cause and
Hmm.
effect. Energetically, there's a cause and effect. It doesn't mean that we are similar to men. We know that we're not.
Yeah,
Chemically, we know that we're
yeah,
not. Physically, we know that we're not. So we're
yeah.
not the same as men. So to participate in this illusion is only crippling you from living your best life.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. There, we are not the same.
No.
You can't, you do actually need a part. And that's what the thing is like, oh, I'd rather be, I've seen this across TikTok. I'd rather be single and not even get into partnership and
Yes.
all of these things when deep down they really want it. They
Yeah.
really want it.
Yeah.
But they're denying themselves and just like saying, oh, I don't need that. I
Yeah.
don't need no man. I don't need this and that. But it's okay. If you, like we're talking about this entire
Mhm.
episode,
Yeah.
if you move from victimhood and blaming
Yeah.
men and actually started to do the inner work,
Yeah.
then you would shift your mindset and then also start
Yeah.
magnetizing and choosing different men, not from a place of wounding, but from a place of actually loving and caring for yourself. So
Yeah.
that's the difference.
I'm not on TikTok, but I've heard this before. And I
Yeah.
believe there's a rise
Mm-hmm.
in publicizing avoidant attachment and promoting it egoically as if it's a
Yes.
strength. And it's a consciousness, right? It's a place of consciousness. It's where these particular individuals are at. And so
Mm-hmm.
they feel that is where their power and strength is, rather than recognizing that actually a secure attachment is the place to be, the barometer of safety and health and having really healthy relationships. And I was reading not too long ago that there's statistically less men and women who are having sexual relationships these days than there was in our generation when we were in our 20s and 30s. So in the generation now in their 20s are having less sex
Huh.
than our generation and the generations before us. They're actually
Uh,
opting out. They're choosing to opt out.
wow. I would not have thought that. That's
Yeah.
very interesting, actually.
Yeah. I think it has to do with a lot of the gaming and
Oh,
uh
everything's
social
behind a
media
screen.
and Zoom.
Everyone's behind a
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay, I
think it
see.
has a lot to
That
do
makes
with that.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense then for why they're having less sex. Okay.
Yeah.
It
That's
really,
really
really
heartbreaking.
is. Here, these stories. That's why our work is really important. I love that you're also doing it with men.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope to see a day like where there are so many more retreats and spaces for them to be
Yeah.
able to
I agree.
feel safe to do this kind of work
I
and it
agree.
not to be weird.
Yeah. And it
That
to
it's
be
the
more
norm.
accessible. I think that
Yes,
price point
yes.
wise, retreats and workshops, for the most part, have become inaccessible to people of a lower means financially. And I think for coaches and for therapists who are supporting others and doing the work, we can really be a part of a global change when we can make this type of work accessible to people of many different backgrounds, financial
Hmm.
backgrounds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. The other stuff is the inner work, is being able to see how you're playing out your relationships with your parents, or what you had brought up earlier of what you witnessed growing up or what you saw through generations. They, it's what creates your blueprint of how you're going to, who you're going to be, and how you're going to behave in relationships, or what you're going to who are you going to choose, all the things. So for you to really understand that blueprint and start creating a new one for yourself is what's going to really help you to be able to attract the kind of relationship you're really wanting, where you do have unconditional love and where you feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Recognizing what's a pattern based off of what you were subjected to. There's numerous studies that even in the womb during gestation, that what a child experiences plays a huge part in their personality type. And all the way up until the age of 7, they're in a particular brain state, consciousness state that is comparable to that of those who are under hypnosis, right? I believe it's the theta. And there's a reason why we say young children are like sponges, they absorb everything. Because you're literally absorbing your full environment, which is a part of your adaptation to your environment, so that after the age of 7, 8, 9, 10, that you start to be able to get to the point of surviving more independently. And if you're in an environment where your parents are yelling and screaming and have really unhealthy relationships, and your nervous system is constantly dysregulated, you're going to seek a relationship where your nervous system is repeating the state that it was in growing up. And you'll even do this at work. I work with a lot of clients who are trying to leave their job, and they recognize that because their nervous system was so activated as a child, that they seek employment or certain types of jobs where they can keep that same nervous system state, and to move into another state or another type of work or another type of relationship where your nervous system is not activated at that same level feels boring.
Oh, yeah. And even if you do find that relationship where it's boring and safe, you will try to create drama. You will try to create drama. Yeah. So it's really interesting. That's why it's important to work with your, I talk about mind, body, spirit, soul work. It has to be all. Otherwise, you're going to struggle to break those patterns. So nervous system work is a big part of what I do as well with my clients, because you have to, there's no way around that.
Yeah. Yeah. And something else I do feel called to bring up, and this is a big part of the work that I do with my clients, is in the dating world, is do not date to find love. Because when you date to find love, it's confirmation biased. You'll find things to fall in love with a person about, and then we start to get love goggles and we don't see clearly. I like to remind and gently suggest, and I also practice this myself. I'm single, and I date to experience myself. So, what is myself with this person? How is myself feel and express with this person? What's my nervous system feel like with this person? And I date to learn myself as I'm moving from person to person. And then as chemistry, compatibility, and connection start to surface with a particular individual, and I love the version of myself with this person and how open and vulnerable I can be, then that to me says, explore this more, go deeper into this. And one of the things that I contest and protest the most is when we go out on a date, where are we going and how are we going? So if you're going to get to know somebody, going out to a fancy dinner is not the ideal scenario. You can take yourself to a fancy dinner with your girlfriends. Picking her up in your Porsche is not the ideal scenario. Meet at a coffee shop, Uber if you have to, if your car is only a fancy, high end, pricey car, but do not disclose your status. If your Porsche is there because you like to show people you have money and you've done really well and you're successful, If you know that's been your peacocking, right? That's how you put yourself out there. Leave it at home and Uber. And ladies, let's not get dolled up. Let's not get all made up. Let's not get our hair, like our nails, dressing all nice. Dress like you're going to go meet your best friend for a coffee. Dress like you're going to go meet your brother or your sister for a coffee. Let him see who you really are, because the biggest complaint that I hear is within 3 to 4 months, in 6 months, the person is saying she's not who she was when we first started dating. Or she says he used to take me out to all these fancy dinners and he'd pick me up in his nice car and he would drop money and take me. It's really easy to get loved bomb if you prioritize that type of thing. But if you don't, then you're creating a standard of consistency, which is show me who you are.
Yeah, and I love coffee dates for the first date. Love it. Because, yeah, no frills, right? You're there to get to know each other. There's no fake perceptions, or not even fake, but yes, I've seen a lot of men lead with money or lead with, oh, I can take you here and here. And then they're going to expect it. Then also, you wonder if the woman's actually falling in love with you, or likes you for the experience that you create, or actually who you are. And that's it. Yeah, that's a huge problem too. I agree. And I think I love that advice. I think coffee dates are 100%.
Yeah,
Yes.
for me, it's coffee dates and then it's dog park date
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a museum date. And then maybe if we eat, it's lunch. Eating for me is intimate.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
intimate. That is
Yeah.
a very beautiful piece of my time. Why the
Yeah.
hell would I want to sit across from somebody I don't know?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that's what I experienced when I was dating too. I think one of my first dates after my divorce was like a dinner date, because I didn't know any better at that time. And I did it, and I was just like, I knew within 5 minutes I wasn't connecting with him. And I just felt bad. And I was like, I don't really want to spend another hour and a half with this guy, but he's so nice. And I just went through with it. But I knew pretty quickly. So I'm like, for him to save time, for me to save time, a coffee date is going to do the trick. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And then there's no like pressure, there's no like crazy
No,
investment.
you don't feel like you
You,
owe him anything because he just tried to
yeah,
pick up the tab. And then there's no weirdness of, are we going Dutch? Dude,
yeah,
just remove all of the
yeah,
weirdness. Just stop. If you want
yeah,
someone to love you unconditionally, make it so that you can show up raw. Make it so
yeah,
he can
yeah,
show up
yeah,
raw.
yeah.
It's just, it's so silly. It's silly.
I remember seeing this video of this woman who was like, this guy, I forgot the exact story, but I guess he had been taking women out to like fancy restaurants. And then he's like, you know what? I want to stop doing that. And I'm going to take her out to Cheesecake Factory or something like that. She got so pissed and literally made a video and put it out on social media and went crazy on him. And I'm just like, who gives a shit where you are? It's your first date. You're just there to get to know each other. And yeah, it's just silly. Yeah.
Shilpa, I love this conversation so much. And
Me
I am
too.
so grateful for the work that you're doing and how you're
Thank you.
supporting communities, how you're supporting women, and more importantly, learning to love themselves and finding their
Mm,
way home to self so that they
yes.
have a greater capacity of love to, to be in relationship with another, regardless
Yeah.
of the dynamic. I'm very appreciative of your work. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you feel called to elaborate on or to express.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you for also your doing. I love that you're working mostly with men. That's beautiful. I think it's so important. It's such a, honestly, I'm so excited. I love hearing that. I love the work that you're doing. I love this conversation so much. I love that we're able to come together and have this conversation and be able to provide a unique perspective to what's happening nowadays in the dating game and
Yeah.
in the love game. And that it doesn't actually end up being a game anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we break away from that, and it really comes and turns into this, like you said, experiencing yourself, but like finding yourself, discovering yourself
Hmm.
through this journey, and falling in love with yourself through the process of trying to find love outside of yourself, right? With someone else, or create love, cultivate love with someone else,
Mm,
that it really becomes a journey about also yourself.
I love this.
Yeah.
So I will post all of your information so that if
Thank
anyone's
you.
wanting to work with you or is interested in the workshop coming up in Paris, that they know how to access you. And
Yes, thank you.
And for anyone who's interested, some of you may know, every month, myself and other providers that are interviewed on this podcast will donate a session, swag, books, whatever it is that they're promoting at this time, just to support our community and our followers. And how you access this is through leaving a very detailed comment on Spotify or YouTube about how this particular episode has empowered you. And that's a great way to enter into the raffle at the end of the month. And Shilpa will be offering a 30-minute one-on-one session. Would you like to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to offer a 30-minute session for anyone who's maybe trying to break the pattern of being in a situationship, what we were talking about earlier, of like a men not committing. Right now I'm currently working with women, so yeah, this would refer to them, but are also wanting to attract love into their lives. So it'll be like a 30-minute discovery call to see where you can do the inner work, like we've been talking about all episode.
Beautiful. So, if anyone's wanting to access that free 30-minute discovery session with Shilpa, then please, you can follow and click the notification on both Spotify and YouTube and leave a comment about how this episode has empowered you and supported you on your healing journey. And I hope that you win, and am very excited to announce the winners at the end of the month. I also donate a 90-minute coaching session pertaining to the work that I best support. So good luck. And I'm so grateful for this time with you, Shilpa, and also very excited that I could get your voice out there. I think there's so many beautiful coaches out there doing the work, and you're one of them.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, it was a blessing. Thank you.